Hey guys, it's Heather here with Underwater Panther. I have been working on my Aquarius or INTJ ebook, Astro-Psychological Deep Dive Analysis ebook, and I've been doing video presentations to go along with my book. So we are now into section 4 of the Aquarian or INTJ ego. Astrologically, that involves the fall, and we have Pluto in fall. Psychologically, we have, I don't know if I can do that from my computer. I just got a request from my daughter. I'm gonna see if I can pull this off from my laptop. It may have worked, and she's calling me now. So anyways, I am always forever editing out these little situations. I may or may not. So anywho, astrologically we have Pluto in fall, and then psychologically we have extroverted sensing in the inferior cognitive function, the inferior slot. So I've already gone over the first 3 sections. The ego is broken down into the 4 sections. Astrologically, we have for an Aquarius, ruling Saturn, co-Uranus. And then we have Neptune, co-Mercury in exaltation. Left field, we had the Sun. And now we are in section 4, the fall. So I hope you have been enjoying this series. I'm very excited about it because I am an Aquarian or INTJ Mercury 11th house. So this is my thinking in communication. So I think I'm going to dive deep into this today. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, but I added a lot to it in the last couple of days in this section. So it's going to be quite a bit, I think. It is kind of intimidating because this is like my greatest weakness as well as other Aquarians. And I'm kind of laughing because extroverted sensing, I will get into what that is, but I had a couple of instances this weekend with extroverted sensing, like little things like it being, I was going to a social event. It was a car cruise in, and I was invited to go with my fiance, and shout out to my Scorpio fiance. Thank you for putting up with my Aquarian butt. I can be a butt, that's for sure. Getting prepared for social interactions, getting prepared for a weekend, getting involved with insane wind after getting my hair done and all dolled up, and then realizing how gosh darn windy it was going to be. I was in like panic mode, and I ended up getting another cowgirl hat to keep my hair in place, and got my nails done, did my hair, the whole thing. We go to the nines when it comes to presenting ourselves out in public. So yeah, it was interesting. At least I was not one of those girls that sat in the car rather than actually socializing. I did get out in the crazy wind and had a good time. So I'm just kind of laughing because that is extroverted sensing in the inferior, blowing up over the weather, blowing up over social interaction. It's a thing. It's like a real thing for Aquarius. So I'm right there with you. Although I'm like insanely conscious of these aspects of myself, I still suffer. I still suffer. Even like at work, when something breaks or isn't working efficiently, I am like, let's get this fixed right now. This is such an inconvenience. It's slowing me down. Things like that is an Aquarian, hard for an Aquarian to navigate. So, all right, let's get into what the fall represents astrologically first. So when a planet falls within a sign, it means those things are asleep and barely conscious within the archetype. When a planet falls or is asleep, it can have nightmares or beautiful dreams and everything in between. You can really doubt yourself here or do things you never knew you could before because you were afraid to try. A planet in the sign opposite the sign of its exaltation is said to be in fall. Therefore, contrarily to the exaltation, the planet loses its strength and influence. So I'm going to also be pulling from a couple of different things. And then I will eventually organize it all into my book. I've got 3 different things I am toggling between on my computer here. Okay, so a planet in fall is not necessarily bad, but rather in a challenging environment. It may be harder for the planet to express itself and its associated energies in this sign. While a planet in fall might be seen as struggling, it can also be a place of deep learning and growth. The individual might face obstacles and challenges that require them to overcome certain weaknesses or psychological issues. Sometimes planets in fall can be associated with a feeling of being not good enough or not fitting into the expected narrative of the planet's usual expression. And that can bring on shame and unmet expectations. So a planet in fall might express itself in a sarcastic, satirical, or self-deprecating way, highlighting the discrepancies between the planet's ideal expression and its actual manifestation. A planet in fall can also manifest as an individual who engages in costumes, cosplay, or wearing silly suits to hide their true selves or express their insecurities. So this could be where we try to disguise our weaknesses. And then a planet in fall may see the serious world with a sense of humor or irony, often avoiding the need for serious engagement. So we can have satire, we can be very unaware or extremely hyper aware of these energies here. Hidden potential, this can be a place of great strength, and we need to remember to keep our humor in life. And I have a Sagittarius that reminds me of I need to keep my humor in life, but yeah, no. We're Aquarians, we do always try to lighten the mood. What else do we have for the fall? I think that's about it. I think that was a really good description with what the fall means astrologically. So then we also have Pluto here. Now I've added a lot to Pluto, so this is probably going to be a longer section. I'm not really sure how long it's going to be, but Pluto is very interesting. I didn't realize that it was so tied with wealth and politics, but yeah, let's get into it. So Pluto influence. When asleep, it's megalomania, waking, transformations, awake, spiritual will. Pluto transforms. Can represent atomic power. Pluto represents deep transformation. So Pluto is the higher octave of Mars, and Mars is all about your passions, your desires, your like fiery willpower to go for what you are passionate about. Now Pluto takes that many steps deeper. And so Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. Pluto isn't as fiery, but it's like a strategic, longer term type of energy that will get you to your passions, your goals, and your desires. So it represents deep transformations, deep willpower, deep passions, deep motivations, everything on Mars, but in longevity. So Mars, it is extremely, it's like when you start a project, you have a whole heck of a bunch of like fire and passion for it, but it can burn out quickly. Now, Pluto is all about longevity. So you may not look fiery in what you're doing, but you're in it for the long haul. Pluto revolves around power and control with transformations in one's life. You have to have these battles in order to truly understand what your deep desires, powers, passions, motivations, and willpower are and are capable of. So this is where you can find deep secrets within yourselves and your abilities. So I was going to get into how it is an outer planet, Pluto. It describes whole generations and periods of history. Pluto represents the god of the underworld, the energy of death and rebirth, and how we transform. And I have a quote here from a French scientist, Louis Pasteur. Probably didn't say that right. Chance favors the prepared mind. So Pluto is in each zodiac sign for a generation, and when it changes, we are left with major problems to sort out. Pluto's realms contain all that we must fear and seek to avoid, yet its cycle teaches that we are not lost, whatever happens. Represents the phoenix rising from its own ashes, and symbolizes the freedom that Pluto offers. The planet shows we can embrace radical change when we realize that even losing everything is an opportunity to start again, purified and in better shape. Pluto helps us face our subconscious fears. Many of us still prefer to stay distant from anxiety and other negative aspects of our lives, either denying them or putting off dealing with them, even when we are aware they exist, or we may turn to simplistic doctrines or plain self-indulgence. Pluto makes the problems we face difficult to avoid and deny. Its cycle constantly tempts, fuels, and then undermines our obsessions. Pluto shows our individual vulnerabilities. It tests whether our fears are valid and how long the dangers we face may last. This, in turn, may reveal ways in which we can be courageous and successful. So Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto in 1930. In 1929, Wall Street crashes, and the rule of dictators in the 1930s culminated in World War II. This war ended with the nuclear devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, which was set in train by the first splitting of the atom in 1932. This event changed our relationship with the Earth forever by giving us, for the first time, the power to destroy it if we so choose. The splitting of the atom led to the nuclear arms race and the intensely scientific world we live in today. So Pluto is associated with death and rebirth, extreme emotions, and intense psychological depths. Pluto also represents secrets, hidden truths, and the power to destroy and rebuild. In astrology, Pluto is heavily associated with the hidden layers of the subconscious. It represents your secrets, obsessions, and desires. It's also a transformative and destructive planet, pinpointing areas where you can grow as well as your deepest fears, and challenging you to overcome them by becoming more self-aware. Pluto governs life, death, regeneration, and personal growth. It also rules the zodiac sign Scorpio, a fixed water sign often associated with passion, determination, assertiveness, and obsession. It is the Roman god of the underworld. Pluto is the Roman equivalent of the Greek god Hades, who ruled over the underworld, a realm of the dead. As the Roman god of the underworld, Pluto is also the planet that exposes and unearths things, revealing secrets and exposing lies. All right, so now we're going to get into wealth and material power. The placement of Pluto in your birth chart or personality tends to spell large-scale generational shifts in behavior, technology, politics, power structures, cultural ideals, anything you might consider a vibe shift on a global scale. Pluto rules the economy, global markets, and the way we define wealth, while Aquarius is about progression, abstract thinking, and the big picture. Pluto's name derived from the Greek Pluton, also signifying wealth and riches, reflecting the concepts of the Earth's bounty. Aquarius is also a sign that is all about the collective. It's interested in human rights, social justice, equality, our responsibilities to community, the environment, revolution, rebellion, new ways of thinking, and more. Pluto is associated with wealth, with capital, not with money. That is the realm of Venus. But Pluto controls assets. Venus is more about going shopping. Pluton means wealth in Greek. That's why we talk about rule by a wealthy elite as plutocracy. Plutocracy. So that sent me down a deep hole, actually. I started looking into Pluto, the root, just words that involves Pluto. And so plutocracy means the rule or sovereign power of a country by those who are wealthy. The governing plutocracy never bothered with elections because they didn't want to upset the status quo. A ruling or controlling of an influential class of wealthy people consists of the overall influence of the affluent to affect people or events in social and economic affairs. A plutocrat Plutocrats are people who possess or exercise power or influence over others because of their wealth. There was a time when plutocrats thought that they had won an election because of all the money they had invested to back a candidate for U.S. president. However, he was defeated by his opponent, so they wasted their money. It's very interesting. I've maybe heard of this. Let's see what else here. So Plutomania, I got into that as well. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. Understanding the nature of Plutophobia, and then there's Plutomania, an insane love of or pursuit of wealth. The old man was known for his Plutomania in that he was always seeking financial advantages instead of friendships, a form of insanity in which people imagine or delude themselves into thinking that they possess great wealth. It's so wild. And then Plutophobia represents a complex psychological condition characterized by an intense and irrational fear of wealth or becoming wealthy. Yeah, it emerges from the intersection of deep-seated fears and societal perceptions of wealth. The term derives from the fusion of Pluto, the Roman deity associated with wealth and abundance, and phobia, denoting an intense, irrational fear. And this reminds me, I can't think of the word, but it's like putting yourself out there and not feeling. It's like putting yourself out there and not feeling. It's like no matter how many credentials you have or how studied you are in a topic, you still, like, you could be an absolute master, but you still don't put yourself out there, or you just feel like a fake or a fraud. I can't remember the term, but I've seen it across the board when it comes to a lot of the influencers that I watch, like Mina Irfan. She had to deal with that in the beginning of her career on YouTube. And I mean, she's a Sagittarius, but it's an interesting thing to be aware of when it's like, you know, we'll get into extroverted sensing, but it's like no matter how good you do or how good you are at something, you're still not confident in yourself. And I think that is definitely a manifestation of Pluto in the fall. All right, so that was a little bit about the wealth portion, wealth and material power. And so Pluto is associated with wealth, with capital and assets, controlling assets, gaining wealth and assets. So control and transformation. Pluto represents power, control, and transformation. It's associated with profound and often intense changes in life. So historically, the last time Pluto moved into Aquarius was at the end of the 18th century, between 1778 to 1798, which coincided with the beginning of what some historians considered the Age of Revolution, a time in history when countries all over the world were rising up and challenging the ruling authority. This included major political and social revolutions on every continent. Going another 248 years back in time, Pluto's previous stint in Aquarius, so it was 1532 to 1553, bore witness to the Protestant Reformation, challenging the Catholic Church's authority. Aquarius is a sign of the revolutionary and the visionary, and in and of itself is not about war nor destruction. But we see that in time when Pluto has implemented the Aquarian vision of equality and freedom, Many societies indeed experience war and destruction. So identity and purpose. Pluto in Aquarius encourages Aquarian individuals to examine their core values and beliefs, paving the way for a more authentic and empowered sense of self. So I talked about that in the last section with introverted feeling in the child cognitive function position. So Pluto's association with the earth and abundance signifies Pluto's links with extreme wealth, because extreme wealth equals power, particularly in today's society with its concentration on materialism and possessions. So Pluto is associated with organizations, larger corporate companies, banking organizations, the wealth and power of the plutocrats, invisible influences like the deep state, and underground criminal organizations like the mafia. In many ways, they are all unseen, hidden, and almost invisible. Transformation and evolution. So we are supposed to prepare for significant changes and challenges as Pluto pushes us to shed what's no longer serving us and emerge with a stronger, more evolved sense of ourselves. And down in the underworld can also be found our buried treasures. We have kept them under control because if we don't, we may have been forced to do something with them, and we have felt that we may not be good enough to do that. So, a Pluto transit or Pluto in our personality can give us the opportunity to release these treasures buried deep inside of us, because Pluto will always uncover what is hidden, and in this way we can grow, evolve, and transform. We must not ignore the benefits of a Pluto energy. It is about growth ultimately. So Mars in Pluto's lesser form urges the individual to express their individuality through action and assertion. Perhaps in the past we have been passive and submissive, or maybe the complete opposite. Pluto may intensify or challenge and transform the usual way we express Mars. Perhaps our anger about situations has been bottled up within us from the childhood, leaving us feeling frustrated. Perhaps there has been a violent trauma or undercurrents of resentment which have been buried. Sometimes this can lead to self-destructive situations. We get into fight situations or violent incidents or some kind of ultimately traumatic situation. It is important that we find the root cause of buried anger and frustration so that we can become comfortable and do not disregard the needs of others for our own personal ends. So, power and control. Aquarius may experience opportunities to gain more power and influence, but also periods where they need to relinquish control to facilitate growth. Pluto is the planet of hidden power. It deals with control, manipulation, and authority. Power struggles are common where Pluto is placed in our charts or personality, whether it is a need to control your environment, relationships, or personal destiny. Pluto makes power a dominant theme. Some learn to harness Pluto's intensity, turning their pain into wisdom and their struggles into personal mastery. Others become trapped in cycles of manipulation, either being controlled or trying to dominate others. Pluto will show you your deepest fears, especially the fear of losing control. The challenge is to step into your personal power without using it to oppress or manipulate others. Pluto is often regarded almost as a higher octave of Mars, like I said. But whereas Mars will fight to survive, Pluto will either suppress or eliminate. Pluto forces us to acknowledge everything that is poisonous, both to ourselves and to society, as he reveals what needs to be purged and eliminated. Pluto represents our shame that has been brushed under the carpet. So it deals a lot with the collective consciousness. Pluto's transit emphasizes the interconnectedness of humanity and the importance of working towards a more just and equitable future. Aquarius is all about the betterment of the collective. It's the humanitarian. Aquarian's energy looks at the information and sees it in black and white. how it affects everyone. It doesn't allow its own biases to cloud its judgment and does want what's right. Deep personal evolution. Pluto is about peeling back the layers of your identity and understanding what truly matters to you, potentially leading to a more profound and meaningful life. So it can make the aura of the personality intense yet mysterious, magnetic, a kind of animal charisma. Aquarian themes can show up as very progressive, radical, or outlandish. Or Pluto can show up as an urge to hide or to control an emerging new sense of self while you search for answers to what you are experiencing, especially the influence you have on others. Pluto can give an Aquarian incredible physical energy and vitality, but it is in the inferior. So, yeah, that's a hit or miss with Aquarius. But it does give great determination and willpower with the courage and fortitude to overcome whatever lies in your path. Feats of great endurance are possible with the Pluto energy. It'll make us test our limits and our powers of survival, which can manifest dramatic situations, even near-death experiences. Now, I actually have heard, normally it's the INFJs that experience like insane near-death experiences or diseases, or something very tragic or dramatic happens and there's like not a very large chance to survive, but somehow they do. That is definitely a Pisces or INFJ thing, but also Aquarius or INTJ. I think that has a lot to do with extroverted sensing inferior, to be honest. Very fascinating that it also deals with Pluto. So Pluto can also make us feel possessed by an idea or theory. Sometimes this can lead us to a ruthless quest for power, but more often it will show up as a process of reclaiming the lost parts of ourselves to heal and repair what is broken, eventually emerging us into more wholeness and more empowerment. If we ignore Pluto's imperatives, we could end up having a health crisis of some sort, or something happens to change our appearance or physical abilities. Pluto demands that we embody power and that we own it, truly own it. Aquarius wants us to do it in ways that are liberating, unique, or even radical. Mentally, we might feel torn between concepts like good and evil, light and dark, as we work through experiences that may seem extreme, polarized, or radical. We're trying to sift out what no longer serves us and what our ultimate purpose is. Let's see, the more conscious we are, the more control we will have over how we direct our personal power rather than acting out. It is the unconscious drives that will land us in hot water. So much depends on how intentional and self-aware we are. So Pluto teaches us that life is an unstoppable force, and it unfurs from the fertile decay of the compost heap. Pluto's magic is all about rebirth, wherever new growth emerges from a dark night of the soul. It is a very slow-moving planet, which gives us ample time to absorb the profundity of its lessons. It demands stamina, courage, and ruthless honesty. If we commit to unearthing our potency, the baron of buried treasure will transform the lead of our lives into gold. When we start working with this planet, we will feel wildly in tune with our innermost self, but it requires that we listen to these subterranean whispers. It asks that we trust the voice deep inside. It urges that we open the doors into our psyche, covered in caution tape. Whatever Pluto asks us to leave behind in the underworld, know that it is clearing space for something even more fulfilling. Pluto is the energy of empowerment, transforming the shadow qualities we project onto ourselves and others because we do not own and tap these characteristics within ourselves. So we are projecting this onto others. The charged situations we face in life will always teach us about ourselves. Pluto sets the stage for the evolutionary journey that will span no more than 4 or 5 houses during one's life. So this is when we are looking at the birth chart. So Pluto in Aquarius in the 11th house. So Pluto in Aquarius suggests that an evolutionary lesson based on accomplishing goals and what this can mean for our self-esteem. We will be attracted to powerful friends who may pull strings for them. Aquarians can be swept up into opportunities with little or no effort through groups in which they belong. The challenge comes when joining groups can make them feel dishonest somehow. The individual may feel deluded of power or truth when in a group setting. So Pluto and Aquarius might feel like they don't belong in a group, and being an outsider leads them to accomplish from a sense of wanting to be accepted, although they won't admit it. It would be hard for Aquariuses to enter a group setting and not demonstrate leadership qualities. Power struggles can be a way of learning to balance the individual identity within the group. So in their early life, Aquarians may feel out of place because they prefer a type of intensity when others may appear conforming. The type of isolation this placement suggests with Pluto and Aquarius suggests that it gives the individual the space to work hard at a career in solitude. The trajectory of their path will involve psychological digging, accomplishment, and rebirth. Early in their career, an identity crisis can completely transform their sense of values, and they will have a firm sense of purpose and a formidable power others will recognize. The life path shows an individual with a powerful center and who can become a pillar of strength for others. I absolutely feel all of this deeply. Aquarians are very, very business career focused. They are extremely focused on their goals, and they do work better in isolation. Aquarians are like the architects, the scientists. They like to work independently. They're very pragmatic. All right, so that was a lot on Pluto. So Pluto represents a phoenix rising from its own ashes. So Pluto, it's like a far out, slow-moving planet. And you can just look at it, you know, it's cold. And this is another planet that Aquarians have that feels distant and cold. You've got Saturn, a very cold feeling, feminine, structural type of energy. Uranus, Neptune, you've got the sun in left field, and now here we are. I always say Aquarians are quadruple whammied with colder energy planets astrologically. It's just it's something that you really need to understand, that you do come across as cold to other people. So it is what it is. So Aquarians are very, very deeply passionate at their core. Very, very focused. Very passionate, very focused people. And you wouldn't realize it at first because up front they can be like very aloof. They can seem like they're not really there. They're always trying to lighten the mood. And it's such a difficult personality. Like it's difficult to understand. I think they have a very hard time, like Pisces or INFJs. They have a very difficult time understanding how they come across to other people. And it's just like you just get to a point where it's like, I don't really know how people are taking me, and I just really don't care. I'm going to be who I am, and if they like it, fine. If they don't, whatever. And so it's like a constant battle of trying to ground in reality and They're very, very focused on self-development, and it's a very lonely journey. It really is. I mean, I strongly believe in when you individually raise your own consciousness, that affects global consciousness. And I do seriously believe that at any time in at any time on the planet of Earth, at any time, I believe that we have to have at least five or so, a handful of very, very conscious human beings on the planet, kind of like Jesus Christ, kind of like Buddha. We have to have these very extremely, I mean, it's not just intelligence, it's emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, mental intelligence. I truly do believe in global consciousness, and I truly do believe that we have to have a handful of those types of people on this planet to keep our global consciousness at a certain level, at a higher level. I do believe that there's more evil than good, and I do strongly believe in the more you work on yourself, the more you do affect the global energy consciously. And that's definitely an Aquarian thing. It's like no matter how lonely I can feel when I'm working on this stuff, I study. I've always been this way. I've always studied so much. It's, I isolate myself, I study. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm trying to understand as much as I can about humans, like the psychology. I started in the bodybuilding world. It was like fitness, nutrition, and looking good, aesthetics, feeling good. And that just it's topical. It's topical. It's like it's great. I know, I know that your health goes hand in hand with the brain and how you can function. Everything is connected. It's systems and systems. I understand that, but this stuff right here is so deep. It's a lot to take in, and it's going to take years and years and years of researching. And I mean, you have to even have an open mind to begin with to get into this stuff. And, a lot of people don't believe in it. And it's like, I don't think it's like, um, you are this, like the labeling. I don't believe in the labeling because I see everything on a spectrum. And if you look at the birth chart, there's synastry going on between all of the planets. And then you've got human nurture, human nature. Those are two different things. And it depends on your environment. There's a lot of different factors that goes into this. And it's just I'm really feeling that Pluto energy because Aquarians will take it there. Aquarians will spend 10 years, 15 years on a goal they had. I had a goal back when I was probably 12 years old. I had a goal that I wanted to write a book. Like I've always wanted to write a book. That was always something that I wanted to do. I just love researching. And when I really take the time to sit and create something, I think it's really great and it's very different. And I think people do enjoy it. Hopefully, you do. But Aquarius is a type of personality that will work on a goal for 15 years straight. And it's like you don't see Pluto energy like Mars. Mars is more like an athlete that's in someone's face on the ground, on the floor, whatever sport they're in. You can see that passion immediately. It's like up front in your face. Pluto is the longevity of Mars, and so it's like a farther out distant. You're not going to see an Aquarian coming. They're not going to be in your face. They're going to be passive. They're going to be in the back. They're going to be slowly building, kind of like in a Capricorn, the mountain goat. They're going to be slowly building, and then all of a sudden, bam, where did this come from? And Aquarius is like, oh, well, I've been working on this for 15 years. It's like restoring a car. Like, my fiance, he's a Scorpio, but he gets into restoring old cars, and it takes quite a few years to finish a car, and he does it ground up. He can do everything. He's very, very intelligent mechanically. And I love it because I understand it in my own realm of the ideas and theories and building a book, building a system, building upon. I see myself in someone working on a car ground up, building it for years, painting it, and then it's like the end result is so much more satisfying when you put your hands on every detail of that car. It's such a beautiful thing. I am not into cars. I mean, I have extroverted sensing inferior. I'm just like not into cars. Like, I think they're beautiful, but I don't know a gosh darn thing. Like the year of it, the what kind it is, like the model, the make, the model. I just do not pay attention to any of that because that's like the physical, mechanical world. I'll get into this a little bit later, but it's just funny because like I'm not in that world, but I can appreciate it from my mind's perspective in creating all these books and seeing how long of a time period it's taken. I've dived into each section and I keep building on each section over the years, and it just keeps getting more beautiful and more connections are being made. And it's like Aquarians really, really get in their ground up. I mean, ground details when they're really into something. Aquarians are known to be like ADHD. It's hard for them to stay focused on like mundane, routine things if they're not interested in it. But once they zone in with their NI, like the one true path forward, this is my goal, their intensity, I would say, is more grand than Scorpio. You think Scorpios are intense? I guess they do have